What is going on, guys? This is Hitman, and today I'll be showing you how to use SQLite with Java. So the first thing that we have to do is go out to the Java or the MySQL, the SQL website, and download the SQL jar, which I've already done. Once we do that, we want to go into our JRE system library and go into our build path, configure, add external jars, select the jar file you downloaded, which the link for that will be in the description. Go ahead and hit apply and OK, and you'll see a references library over here on our left that now has our SQLite JDBC, which is what we are going to use to connect. So the next thing that we have to do is actually get down to writing some code. So what we'll start with is a private static void, connection, which will ask us to import some java.sql here. So we'll go ahead and we'll import that, and then we're also going to go ahead and take a string argument here, a parameter of database. And what we'll end up doing, the way SQLite works is when we create a database, it will either open the database or create it if it doesn't exist automatically. So that's what we're going to start with. And now we can take our connection, which is a data type here, name it con, and we're going to start by setting it to null. The reason we're going to do this is if we have some trouble or error creating this, we're going to end up returning that connection string with nothing. So we'll make a try statement here so we can catch any errors that we might get. And we're going to do this class for name, which is pretty much just telling Java, hey, I'm going to be using this external class here. It's the SQLite.jdbc. So basically that's just giving Java a heads up, hey, this is the class that we're talking about that we want to use to connect to our Java data or our SQL database with Java. So then we have our connection, which is going to equal driver manager, and it's going to be .getConnection, and then we have to give it our connection string, and our connection string is JDBC : SQLite, and then on the outside here, this is where we use our database name, which is why we took that in as a parameter above. And then we're going to give it a file extension of .db. And we'll end our line there. Now, what we want to do is, let's go ahead and finish making our catch statement here too, so I don't forget about that. And we'll catch it as err. And we will do a system.out.println, and we'll just print out the error message. This will just give us a little bit of direction of what went wrong, if something did go wrong, and give us a chance to fix it if we run into any problems. Now, let's see, what does it not like here? Probably a return type. Yep. Okay, so if we can connect out to this database and we've made that connection, there were no errors, then what we will do is we'll drop down to this next line and we will return the connection. If there was an error, we could either throw an error message or do something like that, but for now this is perfectly fine. Let's see here. Unused connection. Yes, our database function name we haven't called yet, but we will sooner or later. From our main string args here, which is the function that runs when this Java starts, we'll go ahead and we'll call connection, and we will pass it the parameter of test. Now, this is all we need to create the database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this. And assuming that it ran, I'll check my files here. And sure enough, there's our test database. Now right now there's no information in it, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it and come back here, and we'll move right on to the next step where we actually go ahead and we create a table. So again, we're going to make another private static void, and here we're going to go ahead and create table. Now, in here, the first thing that we need to do is we need to define connection, and we need to open our connection using our connect function we built above. And again, I'm going to pass it the database name of test, which we're going to continue using throughout this video. And then we can go ahead and create our statement, which this is another SQL piece, which will be STMT, like such. And we'll import statement java.sql. And on the next line here, we're going to put in another try statement just to keep everything wrapped up nice, so if there are any errors, we can handle them instead of having the program just crash and freak out like it does. So we can then say the STMT equals con.create, and we're going to go ahead and create a statement here. And on the next line, we're going to write what our statement will be. So it's our string SQL. And this is our actual SQL code. So it will be create table, and I'm going to call the table image since that's what we're working with, plus, and we can kick this either onto the next line, or you can do this all in one string if you want to. ID, which is an integer, it will be our primary key. And it will be not null, basically meaning that this field has to have some information in it. Then I'll also have photo, which will make a blob. And the reason that we do a blob, blobs are basically like files, so that's where we can upload our binary data. And here I need to close that internal parenthesis. And then what we do is we actually execute the string itself here with an execute update command. And for our arguments, we give it the SQL string. So that would be the same as if we wrote out the lines of SQL inside of here. But this gives us a little more flexibility. And then what we do is we will close our STMT so that we don't have any memory leaks, and we will also go ahead and close our connection for the same reasons here. Alright, now we need to finish our catch statement with an exception of and we will system.print line of if we run into any problems. Again, that just helps us with the error checking. If there were to be any errors, that would catch it and we could handle it instead of having Java just try to figure out what to do with it. So here what we would do is we would call create table, and we no longer need to call the connection because we call that from our create table. We open the connection, do our thing, and then close it. So the next part that we need to do here is we need to be able to actually insert some data into the database. In this case, we're going to be inserting an image. So what we will do here is make another static void private, and we will call it just insert. And for that, this one gets a little bit trickier because we're actually going to read the file into a byte array, and then we're going to use that byte array to message out to the database what we're doing, and that's how we store the image, and then I'll show you how to look at it later on. So the first thing I did is I just made a little try catch block here, so again we can catch any problems that might happen, and I'm going to use file input stream, and I'm going to nickname this FIS, which will stand for file input stream, and it's going to need an import here of the Java IO. So up at the top there we've got the java.io, and we can go ahead and also create something called numRows, which will be used later on to see how many rows were affected in our query that we're going to run. And I'm also going to use file, and I'm going to call it image, and we're going to have it set equal to a new file. And that file path, I've already downloaded one image, and I saved it in users, Steven, desktop, project files, Java, SQLite, and then it's aa.jpg, I believe. And again, file is going to need a basic import for the file Java IO. And then after that, we can actually go ahead and create our input stream. So what will be is FIS or FIS equals new file input stream, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it our image, which is our file. So now that it's got the file, we can go ahead and we can create our new byte array, which will be an output stream. See if I got that all right. The P is lowercase. Output stream, which I'm going to call boss for byte output stream. Technically it should be byte array output stream, but it is my code and that is close enough. And now we're going to need to fix the spelling mistakes and import byte array output stream from Java IO again. Now we've got our, need an equal sign there too. We've got our BOS variable, and from there what we can do is go ahead and run a for loop. And this for loop, what it's going to do is it's going to take the int readNum, and we're going to say, well, readNum equals fis.read, and we're going to go ahead and give it a keyword buff. And just trying to line up all of my brackets. There we go. And then, well, it's not equal to -1, I mean, basically it's still got some information to go there. Go ahead and do all this stuff here. And for buff, we need to define that as a byte. I forgot to do that on this top line. It'll be byte buff equals new byte, and the size is 1024, which might look familiar to you for very good reasons. While we're in here then, we have the BOS.write, and what we're going to write is the buffer or the buff, and then 0 and the read num. So what this is going to do is for all the bytes in that file, it's going to read it into this boss bit array, and now we have a full bit array of information, which is our binary data for the image. And then make sure that we close FIS here so that we don't get any memory leaks in the future. And we can go ahead and go into our database portion of this now. So we've closed that. We can go ahead and we can open our connection with connection con equals connect with our test database here. And on the next line, we're going to write a prepared statement. So it's all one word, prepared statement. PS equals new con dot prepared statement. And then again, we're going to put our SQL information in here, similar to how we did above. So this will be an insert statement. So for our insert statement, we'll say insert into, and it's our table name, which is image, and we're going to insert the ID and the photo. And those are our field names, which we created with our create table above. And then we're going to say our values will be 1 for the ID. Normally you'd start at 0 and have this auto incrementing, and then question mark. And what the question mark is going to do is it's going to allow us to use a variable. That's what our prepared statement does, which helps protect against something called SQL injections. And while I'm here, I'm also going to import the prepared statement, which is under the Java SQL. And then we'll say PS, which is our prepared statement, dot set byte, that's plural, sorry, set bytes, and 1, and then our variable, which is going to be our BOS dot to our byte array. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're telling our prepared statement that we're going to set the first question mark equal to our byte array here. Oops, and I don't need that new statement. And so what that does is it says, okay, SQL, we're going to be inserting this image. We're going to be putting it with that question mark is. So our photo, or the photo field in our database, will be the binary data for the image. So the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and execute this. And so this is where our num rows variable comes in, because we want to find out how many rows may have been affected by this. So we will have that equal our prepared statement dot execute update. First one there. And again, just like we had up before, well, I guess we haven't done this yet. We'll be doing this for the update as well. We're going to use if numRows is greater than 0, which means that it must have had at least one row updated, if not more, inserted. We can go ahead and just write system.out.println saying data has been inserted. Now we can go ahead and close our prepared statement and close our connection. Again, this is known just sort of as cleanup. Make sure we don't have any memory leaks or anyone jumping on to the end of our connection, anything like that. Now, our insert is completed. So what we can do is, if we come back here, we create our table, and now we want to insert that information. So let's go ahead and run this and make sure that it works. And what we get here is data has been inserted. So the way we can check this is by coming into our projects folder, and you can see testdb is created here. And I actually have this nifty little application called DB Browser for SQLite, which is going to let me jump right in and say, yes, here is the blob. It's here. And let's go ahead and see the binary data that's definitely there. So we're going to go ahead and export this, and I'm just going to go ahead and call it my image.png, I guess that was a JPEG, so .jpeg, and save it. And up here, when we open it, that is indeed the image I uploaded. Now, what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and delete both of these out now. And now that we've inserted our data, I also want to go ahead and update that. So great, fine, we've put in our image, but I decided I actually like another image more, so I want to go ahead and put that in. So I'm going to create a new function here called update. Now, again, we're going to do our try block and catch all that fun stuff to make sure that we can handle the errors instead of trying to let Java do that. For those of you who haven't seen Rogue One, I definitely suggest going and taking a look at it. It's actually a pretty good movie, and that's saying a lot because I don't like any of the Star Wars prequels, really. But I like Rogue One. It was enjoyable. I actually saw it twice. Good movie. Felicity Jones has finally given whoever played Padme in 3 a run for her money. Anyways, what we're going to do is basically the same as our insert image. We're going to go ahead and create an image, and I'm just going to copy the path here so I don't have to retype all that. And what I'm going to change though is I'm going to change it to .bb for the image that I'm selecting from that folder, because we are going to be replacing this image. I don't want to replace it with the same one. I'd never be able to prove that it works. So we go ahead and we create our file, and again we create our integer of num rows, and we'll set that equal to 0, if I can type, that is. And then we create our file input stream again, and that is, once again, I'm going to call it fis new and file input stream of our image. So again, this all looks real familiar because we just typed it all up there above. So we're pretty much doing the same thing, because this is the part of the code that is just getting that image from the computer, converting it to our binary data, and then we upload that data into our MySQL, or I'm sorry, not MySQL, SQLite table. And again, I called it the wrong thing. It's byte array. I spelled it with a U. And of course, we need to make our buffer again, which is how much it loads, equals new byte of 1024. And then we have, once again, the same for loop, which is for our integer read num. I'll keep everything the same. We want to say while read num equals fis.read our buffer rate. We can go ahead and say, as long as that is not equal to -1, or minus 1, -1, go ahead and run our set of code. And we're doing the exact same thing here again, the bos.write, and it is the buffer index starting of 0, and read num for our endpoints here. And we can, if you wanted to, you could put a print here to show which bytes it's working on and all that, but I'm not going to. And then we can go ahead and once again close our file stream to make sure there's no memory leaks, and then we can go back into our database stuff. So we will open a new connection. We will connect con equals connection, and we're using our test database, and we will go ahead and do another prepared statement. I've got fat fingers today. Now, with the prepared statement, once again, we've got our SQL string in here. So what the SQL for this one is it's going to be the word update image, which is our table, set photo, this is the field that we're going to be changing, or the column, equal to question mark, where the ID equals 1. Now this is basically an if condition in SQL, which is saying that we're only going to change the record where the ID field is equal to the number 1. If you were making this more of a prepared statement or a more dynamic set, then you could easily just change that to be a variable or whatever you might have, similar to how we're doing this here where we say ps.setByte. We end up using, what is it? It's bos.toByteArray. And again, we're taking our byte array and we're saying that's going in right here. So the image, we're updating that, and we're setting photo equal to our image. So now what we can do is say our numRows variable equals our execution command here, which is the ps.executeUpdate. And assuming that numRows is greater than 0, as in it has indeed affected at least one row or more, we can go ahead and do something just like a system.out.println saying image updated. And then we will do our cleanup like ps.close and our connection.close. Alright, so now if we run this piece of code, that should update everything as well. So let's come up here, and what we'll do is we will create our table, we'll insert the record, and then we will update the record. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this here. Uh-oh. File not found. That's because it's a PNG. So what I have to do is change this to a PNG, and I'm going to open up this file structure real quick and delete that database, and run this again. Cannot find smiled beach. What? Let's see. Alright, so BB is a PNG, A is a JPEG. So I need to come back into update and switch this BB to a PNG. And that error right there is just saying that it couldn't find the file. So I'm going to go ahead and run this again, and it says the data has been inserted, the image has been updated. Let's go ahead and confirm that by jumping back into our projects. There's our test database. I opened it in our nifty little viewer, browse data, and we can see there is some binary data, so something's there. So we're going to go ahead and export that, and I'm going to call this my image again, .png, and save it. And when we take a look, it is the much better Rogue One logo. So that is how you go through and you update, insert, connect, and update with SQL and Java. SQL is real similar to any other, or SQLite is real similar to any other SQL language. So you can create users, put passwords on your connection, all sorts of things. But that's more geared into the SQL side of things, whereas this is the Java of how to connect and work with all that. So hopefully this has been some help to you. This is actually a recreation video because the quality on the last one was absolutely awful. So hopefully this will be a little bit better. I have a new microphone, new screen recording software, and we'll go from there. If this is better for you, let me know in the comment section. Links to the SQL jar and to the database viewer that I use will be in the description, along with a link to paste bins to actually steal this code, so you don't have to retype everything if you don't want to. Alright, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video.